Well, I think in the case of the space station program and the skepticism that surrounded the Russian involvement in the space station, um, I was not on point for those debates, so this is with the benefit of 2020 hindsight. But the claim that the Russian involvement would save money, um, I think would stretch credibility. Because the experience of most international programs, certainly, say, major weapon systems acquisition programs, our experience with NATO, our experience with other multinational weapons programs acquisitions, where large system engineering is involved, is that costs go up. That increases of 30 to 40% might be seen in involvement of international partners because of increased transaction costs between the partners, design issues, interface issues, unexpected technical problems. However, the overall program might be more affordable, both in terms of a political coalition and in terms of resource availability, by having multiple partners than would be the case. So, in general, I think there's a very high bar of evidence should be set if you're trying to argue that involvement of new partners will lower total overall costs. It may result in a more affordable and sustainable system, but that doesn't mean total costs are going to go down. One of the consequences, in my opinion, of those claims and the skepticism around it was that Congress instituted a cap on the amount of money that could be spent on the space station each year. I recall about $2 billion a year for development. That cap was meant to produce a certain degree of discipline and to force a degree of accountability on NASA because the Congress was skeptical of those claims. I think that cap was incredibly inefficient in the way resources were spent, because pretty much any major program knows you have a sharp increase in resources that are needed in the early phases of development, and then it drops off. And in fact, managing peak funding loads is one of the key requirements and constraints that program managers face. It's hard to imagine a more inefficient way of developing the space station than doing it at a solid $2 billion a year, no more, no less, and however long it takes and whatever performance comes out at the end. But that cap was a natural and understandable political result of claims that the overall program would save money. Now, one can always engage in counterfactual history and argue that if those claims were not made, the program would not have been approved. But I think that the price that was paid for those claims was actually quite high over the pace of the program, because a lack of trust or credibility in NASA resulted in constraints that did make the station program more expensive and more difficult to execute than maybe would have been the case otherwise.